Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentleman for yielding. Very important when we look at this extremely significant piece of legislation to recognize, as my good friend from Wisconsin said, this is a trust obligation of the United States government. This isn't a housing handout. This isn't some special deal. This is an obligation that we assumed in negotiation with tribes over many decades, many different situations. And if people are living in Indian country, particularly on reservations, and don't have adequate housing, the federal government has a responsibility to do something about it, something we've recognized since the 1960s, something, as my friend Mr. Pierce said, we institutionalized in 1996. This has been a good program for a long time. It's been a block grant program which has empowered tribes. One of the things I love about this legislation is, in a bipartisan sense, we continue to do that. We provide a lot more flexibility for tribes to actually control their own affairs, meet their own needs. The sum, as Ms. Moore suggests, we all wish it could be more. $650 million is a lot of money, but spread across a population of almost 3 million individuals and over 57 million acres, an area of land about the size of Wyoming. It's maybe not as much as we would like, particularly given the severe needs, but it's a good faith effort, and it's appropriate given the difficult financial times we're in. Again, we've had tremendous support across Indian country. As both speakers previously mentioned, National Congress of the American Indian, particularly the National American Indian Housing Council, has worked hand in glove with members on both sides of the aisle to build this program. My friends were very fulsome in their praise for various members, and I wouldn't disagree with anybody they mentioned, but I've got to hold particularly Mr. Pierce up. Not only for his tremendous work on this, Ms. Moore as well, but for their persistence in this. They brought this legislation to the floor in the last Congress, having worked out the difficulties, formed a bipartisan compromise and coalition, and frankly brought their leaders along with them, I think educating their respective leaders in the process. And we got that through the House last time on a bipartisan basis. The Senate wasn't able to act, and I'm very pleased to see that they've come back again this quickly in the session. Hopefully we'll have a little bit better response on the other side. I don't think there was any opposition. They just didn't get it done in the press of business toward the end of the year. They're going to have plenty of time to do that. But this is an excellent piece of legislation. And as my friends both suggested, it's an example of how well we can work together when we focus on the problems instead of sometimes the partisan and philosophical divisions that separate us. I reflect as I'm looking here on the floor. I usually like to think of myself as a right-wing conservative Republican, but I can't get to the right of my friend Mr. Pierce, as hard as I try. And my friend Ms. Moore, who we've worked together on TRIO programs, on violence against women, now on this, is certainly well to the left of me on a lot of issues. So anything that can bring the three of us together is pretty inclusive in this body, and you won't have much excuse. I'm particularly pleased to see my friend Mr. Kildee on the floor, who continues a family tradition of working in the forefront of Native American issues. So it's a good piece of legislation. It's been worked on hard by people that really know what they're doing. They've brought the body along. So I certainly urge its passage, and again want to congratulate particularly Mr. Pierce and Ms. Moore for their absolutely stellar work in this case. Would not have happened without their efforts. With that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields.